To the Town of Douglas Planning Board meeting for Thursday, September 14th, 2023. Time is now 7:02 PM. First item on the agenda is the public hearing continued, Second Generation Partners LLC, the application for earth removal permit and site plan review, 100 Davis Street. In your packet, we have a revised plan and our peer review report and additional information. So applicant's representative, if you want to just.
Knappich, Allen Engineering, and this is the continued public hearing. You had a number of comments, questions, suggestions. We did prepare a response to the reviewing engineer's letter. We revised the site plans, and your engineer also provided a follow-up letter, which resolves many issues, but for a few that I think are mainly in the category of requested waivers for you to decide upon. We also addressed some issues raised by the board that were not raised by the reviewing engineer. And I'll just touch on those, if I may. The first is with regard to whether or not facilities should be provided. And in our response, I just kind of reiterated the client and the tenant's view that because the site is staffed on an as-needed or intermittent basis, they really don't feel that facilities are necessary. After the meeting, the client also raised a concern about the possibility for them inviting trespass or vandalism. But there was a suggestion made at the last public hearing that perhaps a condition that said that facilities would be provided in accordance with legal requirements or as required by applicable laws. So they wouldn't be opposed to that sort of a condition if that's amenable to the board. Secondly, do you have the plan digitally, or should I? Let me grab a graphic.
Sorry, I didn't pull up the digital today.
So the board had asked that the entrance be paved to the right-of-way. So this revised drainage and erosion control plan shows the pavement of Davis Street and the pavement of Legacy Circle as it exists. And I think you can see here in slightly lighter gray is proposed pavement from the Legacy Circle edge of pavement to the right-of-way. And then we shifted the full 50-foot-long construction entrance from the edge of pavement down to the right-of-way. So there's the paved entrance and then the construction entrance. So the plan was modified to change or add the paved entrance in two locations. The question was also raised about truck turning, so we provide for a 30-foot radius, which is plenty to accommodate a tractor-trailer truck, which is the largest vehicle that we expect would go to the site. That was the second issue. The third issue related to dust control. So we had a pretty extensive discussion about that, and there were a number of possibilities discussed about how to address it. And I don't know that I left with any real clear direction, but we do propose 3 measures to control dust and to some extent visual impact of the project as well. So what we've done is we've shifted the earthwork from the right-of-way 15 feet this way. And the result of that is that the tree line now will be, as you see in green, this is the proposed tree line. So it comes along the property line And then instead of going as it did, more or less along the right-of-way, it's 15 feet inward, and then it intercepts the existing tree line, which comes back and is within the right-of-way of Davis Street. The result of that is that when you add this approximately 15-foot wide buffer to a 10 to or so foot wide buffer in Davis Street, the result is an approximately 25-foot buffer. We can't provide it for its entire length because the existing tree line is here. So, but nonetheless, measure number one to control dust and visual effects was to move the grading 15 feet inward. The second measure to control dust is that the applicant would not be opposed to a condition that said that a portable watering device would be kept at the site and used as needed to control dust. So there are, we're not talking about a watering truck that you'd see on a large construction site, but there are devices available that are towed behind a pickup truck. I didn't know about this at the time, but I've made aware of it since then. They're fairly inexpensive, and they can be driven around the site and disperse water over the site to limit dust. And third, we did talk about this, and that is that the matting itself could be used as a measure to block wind and thereby control dust. So what we propose is a condition that says something like the applicant will use the preferred stacking area to the extent possible, or whenever possible. So what we anticipate is that there's always going to be some matting here available for customers of the tenant to come and take. We don't think that it'll occur very often that there'll be no matting. So whenever possible, if matting was stacked in this block right here neatly, it would provide a wind block for any wind traveling in this direction that has airborne dust, and it would, to some extent, provide some sort of a visual screen as well. So those are the three measures that we came up with to try to address your concern about dust. The other issues, as I said, I think are dealt with in your engineer's letter. The way he's written the letter, those items that say resolved are just that, they're resolved, and the items labeled no further comment are, as I read it, for you to decide. The only other change we made to the plan, the only other substantive change, well, we did address the comments. We added the surface material. We added a note that said the slopes would be stabilized. And we also added a detail of this pavement section, which is really a driveway for all intents and purposes. So those are the revisions that we made in an effort to address your questions and concerns.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome.
So the earth removal within the 100-foot, so what did you do with that?
The what?
The earth removal within the 100-foot of the boundary. So as far as the road commissioners, did they grant you permission? We typically get a letter allowing the earth removal within the 100-foot.
We did not get a letter.
Okay.
No, I didn't know that that was our charge to do that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I mentioned it
Okay.
last meeting.
I do recall, but it wasn't clear how that's obtained or who gets it.
So if you're proposing earth removal within 100 feet of a boundary, we typically require permission from each landowner, right? Or, no?
I don't know either.
Okay, back to Sleepy Hollow, we required the road
Right.
commissioners and every abutter to grant permission to have earth removal within 100 foot of the, because it's not allowed. So in one of your waivers, would permit earth removal to take place closer to a public right-of-way or property line than the 100-foot limit. So you're requesting the waiver.
Correct.
And typically, in granting the waiver, we would consider all the abutters giving permission slips to allow that type of activity within the 100-foot as far as our earth removal.
All right, so with regard to the southerly abutter, that is the applicant. So you can either take that as an implicit consent, or we can get a letter from the estate of Mr. Tatro giving permission. And the same holds true for this lot. That's the applicant. The second
Yeah.
generation, the applicant still owns that lot. They lease it to McIntyre.
I don't know if I have the minutes here. Let me see here.
And they own the property across the street.
Okay.
It's a pro forma, it's just they gotta get their letters.
No, typically we would have some authorization to allow
From the road
the
commissioner.
encroachment if we're going to grant the waiver.
Through the chair, like we did that one time at the solar project. Wanted to cut the banks back closer to the edge. Got permission from the butters. They, I think, brought it down to 50 feet, and they were happy with that.
Yeah, in the
Well, we had something
section,
on file stating
Yeah,
that.
something has to go on file.
Because they requested a waiver. And by having that on file, we have the waiver request with a letter from the abutter stating that was all right to go to that. I think it was 50 feet they went down to.
yeah, we've
was on
gone
the
down
solar.
to 0. I think
Right.
for Sleepy Hollow, road commissioners granted a 0.
Some, right, some did. It depends on the abutter.
Some did not, yeah.
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 In the other one, permit excavation closer to the groundwater table than the 10-foot limit. So, from my understanding with the last plan, so nothing was changed as far as that, so you're still requesting that.
Correct.
But you are only requesting that for that detention basin,
That's correct.
that small portion.
Correct.
So I would be hesitant on granting the 10-foot for the complete project of the earth removal. And I also would try to make an exception for stormwater infrastructure. So I don't know if, because that was something that we touched on also, that it could maybe qualify as a type of exemption. I'd be hesitant to grant that waiver, because
I don't know if
I
we
don't
ever
think
have.
we've ever done that. So that's why I think granting the waiver for the 10-foot limit within the stormwater infrastructure only may be, as far as the waiver is concerned. Because that, the waiver's got to be for the section of the bylaw. But then the waiver would grant with only a small portion of the earth removal.
And we would have no objection to that because there's no other place on the site where, as you can see from the plan, where we expect to be within 10 feet of the groundwater.
Right.
So we would have no objection to a waiver that was worded something to the effect of, waiver from the 10-foot requirement within the area labeled stormwater basin on the plan, for example.
Okay.
And by the way, we did expand upon the rationale or the basis for each of the waiver requests. And with regard to the excavation, the waiver for excavation within 100 feet of a public way or property line, our rationale or basis is that the bylaw says no excavation approved shall be within 100 feet of an existing public way or property line. And yes, technically, what we're doing is quote-unquote excavation, although some of it is actually fill. So it's pretty clear to me that the term excavation as used in the earth removal bylaw refers to removal of gravel below the surface that could result in what we think of as a traditional gravel pit or gravel mining operation, with deep holes, steep slopes, embankments, whereas this will be not like that at all. In other words, the result is of virtually a flat surface. We think it's, within the intent of the bylaw, that it's not an excavation, at least as that term's used by the bylaw, and therefore it should be something that could be waived, because it's not going to be anything unsightly or, a steep slope. And I assume also that the 100-foot setback from a property line or a right-of-way is in order to avoid a steep slope that sort of slumps or erodes and causes that erosion or slumping to go onto the adjacent property. And again, that's just not going to happen here because of the nature of it.
Yeah, it's to eliminate those steep slopes so that children don't fall into a hole.
Right.
But I think that the earth removal / moving around of the earth is also concerned in earth removal in the section of the bylaw. And then the other one is, I guess we'll just talk about while we're here, the waiver requests.
Through the chair,
Yes.
on going or within the 10 feet of the water table in the pit or in the drainage
Stormwater
area,
basin,
water basin, is there going to be a set number where, okay, we're going to be within 6 feet, we're going to be within 4 feet, are we going to be within 8 feet? That will be specific?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's based on, so as we discussed last time, we did do a test pit, and the test pit observed no water. Let me double check that to make sure I'm not misspeaking. Test pit number 1. Right. So we did a test pit about 10 feet deep within the basin area, and there was no water observed at the bottom of the test pit. But we have to assume, for purposes of the design and asking for the waiver, that the next scoop, we were going to find water right there. So we just assume that there's water 10 feet below the surface. There probably isn't, given the nature of it. It's very
Right.
porous, gravelly soil,
Right.
but nonetheless, we assume there is.
Okay.
And if you look at the elevation of the test pit and the elevation of the bottom of the basin,
Yeah.
the elevation of the bottom of the basin will be 4.5 feet above that assumed
10 foot.
groundwater level. So the answer to your question, the long-winded answer is what I said. The short answer is 4.5 feet.
Okay.
So we did give them the option of the augering because
Right.
their machine couldn't dig any further. That's the whole issue.
As long as we have some kind of digit number there.
Oh, yeah, they're gonna have
If we're all
their
all good with
separation.
that, yeah.
And maybe when they get to the bottom of the stormwater basin and they dig down 10 more feet, they're not gonna find anything anyway.
Right. Okay.
So, board, let's go through the waiver request since we're already within there. So starting from the top, the bond required. What's the board's pleasure on granting or not granting this request? And that would also tie into restoration. So if we're going to grant a waiver of the bond, we need to grant the waiver of the restoration because it would make no sense to have them one without the other.
I do have a question, if I could. This subdivision is a commercial industrial subdivision, correct?
Yes.
Ultimately to be developed.
Definitive
Purpose.
subdivision approved.
Yeah,
Yep.
so just to be clear, is this is really a temporary use, what you're doing?
Yes. The short answer is yes. We don't know what the duration will be, but of course, they put infrastructure in, built the roadway. The expectation is that someday there'll be a building there.
Okay. So I think that raises the possibility and probability that there will be restoration required, depending on how it's used in the future. So I would argue for a bond, among other things, including leaving all the topsoil on site. I don't see any reason why that would be taken away, because it may be needed in the future. I don't know why you take away 75% of the topsoil, but
Well, I think the timing of the restoration is a question. So how long would you require a bond for?
Yeah.
That's where the balance is. And if someone goes in there in 3 years and wants to build a building, they would be coming back for site plan approval because it's commercial.
So we
And
would
we would require
require
them
the restoration.
landscaping and the
that time.
lawn and stabilization and all that.
If they cease using it for this particular purpose, and there's no other use planned at that time, then restoration might be required there. If there's,
Yeah, and I think we talked about that at the last meeting.
Yeah. Through the chair, see, that's a great area.
Yeah.
With the mats here,
Okay.
they could be having this project go on, and all of a sudden, Eversource Natural Grid says, hey, we're putting a 2-year hold on it. And all of a sudden, they'll pull out. We see it in our industry with cranes. Oh yeah, we're gonna be using a piece of equipment for a year and a half. It's back in our yard in 6 months. You don't know, it's, could be there for 3, 4, 5 years, could be there for a year. We don't know. And if they do all this, and like you say, they pull out, now you have an open gravel area.
Okay. So,
And that's, and I know the client can't say, well, we're gonna give you from this date to this date. It's an unknown with the projects and the jobs that are in the area. That's the only reason the mats are here, is because of the work in this area. Once that work is all done, they're all done. The mats go where the work is. Like they used to be in Pines Pit, and they pulled out, they're gone. They went to other areas, now they're coming back for either another area or another source. They need another spot to put their mats, so they're looking at it here. So it's constant evolution on where the jobs are with these mats.
Can I interject? This is Evan Tatro from 282 U Street. I'm also representing Second Generation Partners. We have a 3-year deal with Bridgewell. So this isn't an as-needed basis at all. And I'm sorry if I interrupted there, but I just want to put that in.
yep, you were not recognized by the chair. My apologies. So the board is discussing right now, and then I will give you an opportunity. So I think that long-term, I mean, what I'm hearing from the board is that we would like to require a performance bond.
Just to restore it back, because if you just have, and it's happened in the town before, how many open gravel pits do we have where people have started and then walk away? Now, you gotta,
I don't think we have many.
I know there was one or two on 16 further up from years ago, long time ago.
I don't know.
I don't either.
But I think the board's discussing now the inclination or not to grant the waiver. So it relates to 4, 5, and 6.
I mean, it's a weird catch-22, because the way I see it is, if this lot does get developed for something else, they're probably gonna want it, they would rather it gravel to start,
I agree.
instead of making them put loam and soil and
scrape
put seed
it.
in, and then just having to scrape it all up again.
Again,
Which is true.
Yeah.
If again through the chair, but there again, we don't know that. I know gentleman spoke saying 3-year contract. Well, that doesn't mean nothing. A contract can end at any time due to unknown circumstances. So it's a deal where I agree. If this goes to tuition, then fine, they get all their bond money back and the whole deal. But if in 3 years, they're done and they pull out, and the lot, there's nothing planned for another 5 years, what are you gonna do then?
but if I may, just to maybe I'm taking a different tact, is that it's probably not going to be a dog playground or a park with trees in the future.
No.
So it's an industrial zone
Correct.
property. I'm still fairly new. I'm just, I mean, I've been here a bunch of years, but I still don't understand everything. It seems to me that no matter what happens here, it's going to be industrial laden regardless. That there's not, like you just said, they're probably going to be glad to have the gravel, and who cares? I mean, in a way, as long as there's a shrubbery and there's some greenery along the main street, along Davis Street, and along that looks nice and it's kept. From the view, who cares what it is on the
And
ground here?
stabilized with
And
dust control.
Right, all of that
Dust.
has to be done. I'm not so sure about bringing back the soils and,
And I think we did say condition would be if it ceases the use that's granted, then it should be restored.
Right, and it could be a situation where we're not saying they're gonna put down 4 inches of loom and this and that and everything else. We need to put something down that's gonna hold seed so that the dust and the dirt,
well, that's,
Well,
From
that's
that
what
site.
but that's what it would be.
well, I'm saying.
That's why.
You had a couple inches of whatever, so that it holds the soil there, because you know and I know, you get a windy day, drive by any open area.
but that can be
even our yard.
calculated, right, Matt? I mean, you can do calculations on some sort of restoration, so they could do seeding in the future and stabilize it.
But
Personally, Madam Chair.
Yes.
If I may, I'm not so concerned about restoration as I would be just about general site stabilization. I don't think we're looking, like Mr. Schultzberg said, to turn this to a field with grass and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I would
I just,
say that.
stabilization's my concern, not necessarily a restoration bond to me. But I guess the mechanism is, how do you require someone to do that if in fact the contract breaks, they leave? Are they going to look back at a condition and say, oh, wait, we forgot to do that? You got to hold that to the responsibility of the landowner. So,
And it's money they get back if they, well, they'd have to do the work, I guess they can get it back.
Now, can I, through the chair, can I throw this in there? Obviously, this land's being rented, being leased, I'm assuming, right? From a landowner. Is the landowner to take over responsibility if they pull out? If there's stability in that area?
the applicant is the.
You know what I'm
It
saying?
would be the landowner's
Yeah.
responsibility.
Well, that's what, I
Not the
mean, if
tenant.
that's something that should be looked at, should they look at, say, hey, well, we have something from the landowner saying, if for some reason the contract's up and done and they pull out and nothing happens to the property, so it's not a dust bowl, we'll get some seed down or whatever, so that's not a dust bowl area.
Okay. Is the applicant objecting to providing a bond?
They'd rather not. I mean, the board's, I think we're down to issues of, agreeing to disagree, and if the board's going to make a requirement, the board's going to make a requirement, but they'd rather not, for the reasons we mentioned, that this really isn't an earth removal where you're worried about, acres and acres of vacant land, or gravel with steep slopes and whatnot. But as I said last time, and I think your reviewing engineer seemed to agree, and by the way, last time, it seemed like the discussion was more a bond to ensure that the site could be sort of graded as shown. But what you're talking about makes more sense, which is a bond to ensure that if this ceases to be used for that use, that at least there's money to spread some topsoil and seed over the site. And so, to answer the question of what the bond ought to be, we answered the question that we left blank, which is the cost of improvements, which consists mainly of grading as shown on the site plan, and that was $15,000 that's right from the contractor. So it's mainly moving earth around, there's no structures, so to complete the site, it's $15,000. So I assume that if a bond was to purchase and spread some topsoil in the event that it was vacant for some extended period, I assume that it would be in that range or perhaps even less.
That's what I was
Right.
also.
Yeah.
So we typically send it out to be estimated with the peer review, with a calculation of prevailing wages and the cubic yards and the square feet of seed.
Because I agree through the chair, like, whatever the grade is, whoever comes in, they're gonna change it. So that's not the concern. The concern is the dust bowl, is the dirt flying around, some leaks.
Madam Chair, may I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Since the waiver itself is for a restoration bond, in my opinion, if the board waived the restoration bond, we could still condition the approval to ask for a certain amount of dollar amount for stabilization fund into a bond account.
Stabilization bond into a
Yeah, if it's a 53G.
53G. Okay.
However, we want to do it. It's just, the condition itself for the waiver is for restoration. I could be wrong, but I don't.
6.1.6.1
Yeah,
is
the-
for restoration.
Well, number, what is it, 4, 5, whichever waiver we're talking about, 6.1, yeah, number 1.
Is for restoration,
Right, that's what I thought.
not
Restoration, certify the restoration has been completed in compliance with the permit and the plans. That's
Okay.
like reseeding, bringing the site back to original grade for a regular earth removal permit, right?
performing. Okay.
And since this operation-
Stabilization,
This operation being different, perhaps we're just discussing a possible condition with a
Yeah.
fund amount.
okay. Okay.
And if I may, I also think that it makes sense, if you do require a bond, that there be some sort of prerequisite to calling it, such as, vacant for some period of time, 6 months or a year. And I would like to suggest that it be further qualified to say, without some plan before the board. What I mean by that is, I could envision a scenario where in 3 years' time or shortly thereafter, as Mr. Tatro mentioned, the tenant is done, they vacate, and then the site's vacant. However, there follows somebody who's developing a site plan, and that's before you, showing a building.
Could be a lifetime.
So I assume that it would be a waste, you'd agree it would be a waste to put top and subsoil down if it was only going to be redeveloped according to some plan that's before you, some
Yeah.
proposal.
Active
I see no
application or
problem with
proposal.
that.
Yeah, I mean-
We called the bond for Upton remediation, and it took maybe 2 years. And they actually finished it, so we didn't have to,
Right,
we didn't take their money. That was a cash bond.
Yep.
right.
So, yeah, I think everyone's gonna be reasonable and use their
Right.
best judgment. We're not gonna try to do anything that's just wasteful.
Irrational, right.
Yeah,
And I concur with the chair, like, if there's a project or something ready to go in there or whatever, it's silly to put it down. I mean, I agree to that. I mean, that's someone common sense. But if there's nothing in the works or anything like that for, like you said, 2 years or something,
and there's a nuisance.
right,
So it's a twofold.
Correct.
There's a nuisance, it's visually unsightly, and there's dust and debris, and
right.
that's a different story. Okay. And the second waiver request for the within 100 feet of existing public way. What are we gonna do with that?
I'd say board's discretion.
Subject to the grant from the Board of Selectmen, who are the road commissioners?
Sure.
Okay. And then the third one is going to be allowed only within the stormwater basin.
Yeah.
Number 4, okay. For a grant.
Yep.
No stockpiling. 5. Okay. And 6, okay. And 7, okay, is lighting. 8, landscaping. And that additional 15-foot vegetative buffer, how is that going to be designated for the contractors for clearing? Will there be a land surveyor locating that 15-foot area?
We could do that. We're going to have to stake out certain other features anyway, so sure, we could do that.
Right, so we don't want it disturbed from the beginning. So that would be surveyor to designate the 15-foot vegetative buffer. Board, anything else?
So,
God bless you.
Excuse me.
God bless you.
I have a question, it's not a waiver per se, but the whole toilet thing. I know this is not open retail, but a lot of businesses have business with no retail portions to it, and I know it's one of the greatest lines in the history of moviedom is when Goldblum in Jurassic Park said, "When you gotta go, you gotta go." If you remember that, when the guy got eaten by that. So contractors are gonna do what contractors are gonna do. They're gonna go behind a tree, they're gonna do whatever, and I feel bad for them if they don't have one little porta-johny, a cheap one. I don't think we have any bite in this, right? Through the chair? We have no...
It's going to be up to the zoning enforcement officer.
Right.
Who is granting the permit.
That's it, okay, I just wanted to bring it up because contractors and drivers...
And maybe the Board of Health, but
McDonald's
mostly
is not around the corner.
the zoning enforcement officer will or will not require it based on the
Perfect.
building code.
Right, okay. That's it.
And we can make that a condition to call that out for him, just in case we have an issue in the future. Okay. Board's all set, right? Mr. Flansburgh? Name and address, please.
Yeah. Jeremy Flansburgh, 63 Monroe Street, 42 Monroe Street, 46 Monroe Street, 53 Monroe Street, and 73 Davis Street. Now, I just want this board to know that based on this being a 100 Davis Street, you're kind of setting the precedent for this guy to get away with just about everything without an address to any of these projects that, remember, 100 Davis Street is associated with Granite Tech. And when there's an emergency, if somebody gets hurt, if a building's on fire, where's the fire department and them to go? They're gonna go to Granite Tech. There's 3 buildings on Granite Tech. And they're not gonna go to Regency Place. So you guys are setting a pretty big precedent. Now, when it comes to the dust, and the gentleman in yellow, he doesn't seem to think that it's a big problem, but I just want him to know that I spent $900 to have my house power washed because all this dust from this
Mr.
project that was-
Flansburgh, please
excuse me.
direct
I'm
your
sorry,
comments through
Madam
the chair.
Chair.
Thank you.
All right, but
Look
I'm
at me.
just referring.
That's okay, yep. Mr. Sokrat.
A member of the board then.
Mr. Sokrat.
All right, because all this dust is coming across, remember, in a good southwest, a good southeast wind, it's going right across my house. And all of my mom's house, my house, it's all getting loaded with stuff on it. Now, when it comes to the porta potty, it doesn't appear that we're going to have any shrubs or anything on the corner of Regency and Davis, just grass. So now you're gonna have a porta potty and a busted up Bobcat that's gonna sit next to a pile of Lincoln logs. I don't think your wash-off mats are sufficient. On the plan that was supplied here by, I believe it's the town planner, there's no outlet. If you saw in today's newspaper, there's a big EEE outbreak in Massachusetts. This is just gonna be a big mosquito pond. And how far, when you said the waiver, Madam Chair, that you need to remove earth, how far is that needed from my property? I own 53 Monroe, and I own 63 Monroe, and I also own 73 Monroe. So I don't believe the applicant has really called that out. We didn't have any trees. Oh, the perk test shows the bottom of the catch basin at 450, but for some reason, so he would have to at least gone to 445 to determine if he has a 5-foot buffer zone between the bottom of his catch basin and where we got. And it doesn't seem like he has a perk test yet to determine if, in fact, the elevation of water is at 445, because the base of his catch basin is at 450. And the last thing I'd like to notice is that we mentioned this last time, and my mom was the one that pointed it out, and unfortunately, she had to go to a Catholic Women's Council meeting tonight. Signs are still not up that says trucks entering and exiting. This guy, I don't think, really is being honest with this board. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, we have a couple things. The 100-foot is from boundary to boundary. So the applicant, can you verify that he's not within on his property? We could probably verify that fairly quickly, since I think we required a 60-foot for the roadway, right? You have a right-of-way at 60.
Yeah.
And then to the other side of the depth of that is at least 100.
That's 60 feet wide.
Right, so we've got 60 in the roadway right-of-way plus another lot
Right,
on the other side
yes.
towards Mr. Flynn's.
The bylaw does say from adjacent properties or from right-of-way. It doesn't say from properties across the right-of-way. At least that's the way I interpret it.
Yeah, you're still not within. 1 second. The porta potties, they are saying that they're not going to have one. If they do get one and it's not in the correct location as permitted by building code, they will be required to move that. If you're getting any.
All over the place?
No, they would require to relocate and move the porta potty. So that's going to be the building official that's going to make a decision. I understand. That's going to be up to the permits that are given by the building department. If you are getting dust, you should submit your complaint to the building official or the community development director in writing. And then it typically in the past got addressed through them. The mosquitoes, this is a sand pit, so briefly, if the applicant wants to say for the holding period of that stormwater basin, the likelihood of any mosquitoes, what's the holding time on that water?
Why is there an exit?
I would say less than 24 hours. Those soils are generally permeable, and the engineer did review it. So I would say the holding time is less than 24 hours. And although it is designed to hold a 100-year storm. That's a 100-year storm. The likelihood that happens is 1%. More likely it's going to fill up, a foot or two, and then recede in less than 24 hours.
Yeah. And then as far as the groundwater, would you object to having a verification of groundwater once you dig that stormwater basin?
No, I think once we're down to the basin elevation, then it's only another 4.5 feet.
Through the chair.
Yeah, so you need to maintain for stormwater. Right.
If I understood your question, it was, do you object to
Sure.
confirming that the bottom of the basin is 10 feet above groundwater? Is that what you meant?
For separation for groundwater.
Right.
So once the bottom of the basin to groundwater, you need to verify that you have your separation required by stormwater.
We do have that, so the
Okay.
separation does comply with
Okay.
Mass DEP standards.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Through the
And what's up with the signs entering? Where are they?
So.
Why aren't they up yet?
I think I did state at the last meeting that I believe the signs were there, although I clarified that and I said I did not have an opportunity to confirm it. I said I would, and I think Matt did as well. When I went to confirm it, I found, as Mr. Flansburgh mentioned, that they are not. However, as we note in our response to the truck turning requirement, they are a very specific requirement of the special permit that you granted to McIntyre Loam Inc. for Lot 6. So I assume that you would merely enforce that rather than impose on us a requirement that we
I
put
think-
those signs up.
Yeah, I'm thinking we don't release this permit unless the signs are up.
This permit?
Yes,
All right, so it'll be for us to have McIntyre put the
Yes.
darn signs up?
yes,
Okay.
yes. It's all tied together.
Property owners consistent throughout.
Yes.
The chair, I just want to, if I'm sorry.
Yep,
You're out of luck.
nope, nope.
So I just want to understand, when we have this catch basin, and there is separation between wherever we know there might be a water table, feet and feet of
4.5
gravel, sand, that this is not a marsh. This is just to catch the floods, and it dissipates in the ground. If
Yeah.
it dissipates in the ground, 24 hours, 48 hours, not produce mosquitoes at all, because you have to make larvae, and then it's got to, so there, I don't believe, I'm asking the question, that there's any issue whatsoever with mosquitoes. I just want to, great concern. I got that concern myself.
Today's paper?
But I think if it's dissipating and it's gone, and that's what I'm hoping, this is what it is. It's not a marsh. I don't think we can see
right.
reeds coming out of this.
Some are designed to hold it for a longer period of time, but this one is not.
Okay.
If there would be an exit, then maybe it
Excuse
would.
me, sir, I'm sorry. We have, I think I have one more thing you had mentioned about the mats are not sufficient in the detail. What was the first
Well,
thing you
I'm
said?
sorry, Madam Chairman, I
Wait.
didn't hear your question.
What was the concern with either the riprap entrance or you called it
Yeah, the tire wash off.
a tire scrubbers?
Yeah, where they wash their tires off before they go on the Regency Place and then off into Route 16.
Yeah, like,
It didn't appear to be, I'd like to know a little bit more about that because I've seen it on construction sites. It's usually just pea stone and the dump bodies just drive over it and I didn't know if there was anything more involved with that.
okay, yeah, it's riprap, it's gonna be 3 inches plus, so,
Right,
and
yeah.
they are
It just didn't
gonna,
appear to be
yeah.
kind of long enough based
No.
based on whatever conditions you put on him when it comes to the condition of how he's going to leave it and how he's, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, we'll have a condition that the roads will need to be swept if any dirt gets on
That's
them.
fine.
And I think that the riprap is sufficient,
According to peer review.
according
make
to
an
our,
effort.
yes, Mr. Benoit, according to our peer review, it is a sufficient tire scrubber, riprap construction entrance, so, and we also have in our conditions that the roads will be swept if there's any
Yeah, in some instances,
carryover
I've
of
seen
gravel.
a garden hose and they actually hose off before they even leave. I have seen that.
Okay, and did you have a follow-up comment or
I
question?
do. The one thing, when it comes to this address thing, where I think
That's what it was.
maybe I'm going awry or not, 100 Davis Street is a direct abutter to 73 Davis Street. And all there is the dirt road between the two. So if he is to do excavation at 100 Davis Street, and I'm a direct abutter to 100 Davis Street, which is Granite Tech, and I know this board is understanding that it seems like you're using this as a placeholder, but theoretically, I'm an abutter to 73 Davis Street. So he needs my permission to do his excavation before anything gets done, because everybody's using this blanket 100 Davis Street.
Okay, so you're saying you're adjacent to 73?
Yes.
I'm adjacent to 100 Davis Street.
You're 73?
Which is what this memo in this notice says.
Right.
And tonight's advertised meeting says 100 Davis Street. And I asked in the last meeting that you've got to give these people some real addresses, because now theoretically, this is not even a legal meeting, because I live adjacent, I'm in a butter at 73 Davis Street to 100 Davis Street.
Okay, it is a legal meeting, and I believe we did request the applicant to go to the post office to get a sign, an address. Actually, or the building
The
department.
assessors department.
The building department gives the addresses.
You mentioned that, and I may be able to offer some
Yes.
further helpful information, and that is, perhaps there's some confusion. Nowhere in the earth removal application or the site plan review application do we indicate that the site, this project site is 100 Davis Street. Rather, we identify it as Lot 1 and Lot 2
Legacy
Legacy
Circle.
Circle. On the other hand, perhaps this is the source of confusion, it just so happens that the address of the applicant, the mailing address of the applicant is 100 Davis Street, because obviously, or maybe it's not obvious, they own the adjacent building. So that's, although that's the mailing address of the applicant, we tried to be clear that the site is Lot 1 and Lot 2 Legacy Circle.
Madam
Right,
Chair?
and it is a recorded definitive subdivision
Correct.
at the registry of deeds.
Right.
Yes.
So, Madam Chair, what we have is we over-advertised. We put every address that this property has ever had. Currently on our assessor's maps, they're not drawn yet as
Right.
per the definitive subdivision plan. Legacy Circle is not an accepted way.
Right.
All right? So we have lot numbers that don't have property addresses assigned by the building department because no one's filled out a building permit yet.
Right.
So we put 100 Davis, because that encompasses, you see on our GIS map, we also identified the individual parcels by parcel numbers. We doubled down to make sure this was illegal.
Right.
So I'm not concerned about that.
Okay, yeah, and as far as the ad that was placed, that is correct, it was very clear. Yes, it's on the agenda as 100 Davis Street, and that does encompass all of the parcels. That's correct. So if we go on here as 100 Davis Street, did you want to highlight that?
Sorry, I got the measure tool.
That's okay.
Right.
Okay, and if you zoom in,
Yeah, the subdivision isn't shown yet. It comes in right here.
right, so there was no other choice as far as getting a certified abutters list to make sure that,
Well, that's kind of ironic that you're showing in highlighted in yellow one lot.
It's just,
Here on the, on what was sent to me, we've got
this is a moot point.
parcels 9, 10, and 11.1. So.
The map
what you
is
just
not
showed us one.
updated.
Well, that's one. On
no,
this
the map,
notice it
no,
says-
the map is not updated, that is not one. The map is not updated with the GIS from the town.
That's no,
Well, long story short, this notice doesn't say Lot 1, Lot 2. It says parcel 9, 10, and 11.1.
yes, those are
This is
the,
advertised incorrectly.
those are the legal descriptions of the lot, Mr. Flynn. Madam Chair, please.
I kind of
Okay.
disagree.
Mr. Flansburgh, we'll have to move on, it was correctly advertised, okay?
I strongly disagree.
We can agree to disagree.
And you might get a little bit of.
So as far as,
on that
okay,
one.
all right,
Quite frankly,
we're
you're
gonna
setting the
end,
precedent for this guy to
we're gonna
do
end the
whatever he wants to call
conversation.
Davis.
I'm sorry, we're gonna end the conversation, okay? Thank you. Did you try to get the addresses for public safety?
No.
Okay, are we gonna try to do that?
Sure.
Okay, because if there's a business operating at this lot, it doesn't matter if there's a building or not. There's gonna be a business, 3-year contract with this business. It needs to have a designated location where emergency vehicles can be deployed to,
And the building department issues the address.
Yes.
last time I checked.
Okay.
Yeah, I can through the chair, I think at the last meeting, we requested at least, you need to have something out front with that number on it. You know, this is so-and-so.
At the entrance, yep.
Address, so-and-so, so that it can be ID'd rather easily by police, fire, or anybody that needs to show up.
So that's gonna be another condition.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyone else in the public need to make a comment or a question regarding earth removal permit and site plan review? 100 Davis Street.
Nothing further from me. I'll defer to Rob.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
think
Mr.
it looks
Benoit,
good.
anything?
Nothing
Okay,
further.
board?
Appreciate the asphalt. I think that looks good, the ins and outs.
Oh,
Okay, I'd like to take up the waiver requests. If the board be so inclined.
I think we have a list here.
So the waiver request as written, if it is not being granted by the board and needs to be modified, then I would say the modification as the motion.
I concur.
Okay. So number 1. So the board's going to waive the requirement of a performance bond and condition the stabilization bond sufficient to loam and seed the entire disturbed area if the operation ceases to exist within 1 year.
1 year.
And no further building designs or
Are on the
contracts
table, yeah.
are on the table.
Is that a motion?
I put something like that in here.
I'll make that motion.
Madam Chair, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Please.
Providing a new use is not currently under review by a regulatory authority, because it could be either this board or a ZBA. depending on-
Right, as long as there's nothing pending to.
Got it.
Motion made by Mr. Zwicker,
Second.
second by Mr. Schultzberg. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Those opposed?
Opposed?
Aye.
One
Nay.
opposition. Nay. Okay. Number 2, no excavation approved by a special permit issued here under may be within 100 foot of an existing public way or adjacent property line. So the applicant's requesting a waiver. So
We'd want a motion pending
grant the
approval
waiver.
from
Board of Selectmen
Board of Selectmen.
Who are the road commissioners
and the butters.
and any other abutters that fall within 100 foot.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Mr. Schultzberg.
Second that.
Second by Mr. Sokrat. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And the next one, number 3, section 6.1.66. No excavation shall be made at less than 10 foot above the annual high water table as established from test pits and soil borings. So, motion to grant the waiver within the stormwater basin and verify the basin is not within, the bottom of the basin is not within 10 foot.
Pertains to test pit number 1 as on drawing.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Because it's a specific area
Yep.
of
Yep.
testing. That-
Motion made by Mr. Zwicker.
Is there going to be a final grade number, though?
I guess it doesn't really matter if we're granting the waiver for 10 foot within the stormwater basin. I think I want to put that as a condition, that
Okay.
you verify,
That's fine. I'll make that
as a
motion.
separate. Motion made by Mr. Zwicker,
Second.
second by Mr. Greco. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm opposed.
Okay, one opposition, Mr. Preston. Number 4, 6.1.6.7, all top and subsoil stripped from operation areas shall be stockpiled, seeded with an erosion control seed mix and used in restoring area. That would be a straight grant of the waiver of that section.
I'm fine with that. I'll make that motion.
Motion to grant the waiver by Mr. Schultzberg, second by Mr. Zwicker. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm opposed.
Okay, and one opposition?
I was just saying, is that exclusive of, this request is related to waiver requests 5 and 6 below? Does that make any sense whatsoever? That
Yes. Yes.
Okay, then,
Yep.
aye.
Okay. Yeah, it's all to do with the restoration. So we're shifting it to stabilization.
Right, through the
Instead of
different fund.
fully restoring the site to a field. Number 5, restoration shall be carried on simultaneously with excavation, so that when any active excavation is in operation area, as determined by section 6.1.6, has been excavated, 2/3 of activity, etc. Motion to grant this requested waiver.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Schultzberg,
Second.
second by Mr. Zwicker. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm good. Aye.
Okay. And all ayes. Number 6, retained subsoil and topsoil shall be spread over the disturbed area to minimum 4 inches. So we really can't have the top one granted without this one. Entertain a motion to grant the requested waiver.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Schultzberg,
Second.
second by Mr. Zwicker, Mr. Greco, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm opposed.
And one opposition, Mr. Preston. Number 7, site plan shall show outdoor lighting.
It's no problem.
Motion.
Motion to grant the waiver?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Mr. Schultzberg, seconded by Mr. Zwicker. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Site plan shall include a landscaping plan.
Motion to grant.
Motion made by Mr. Schultzberg,
Second.
second by Mr. Zwicker. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much. And then do we have our conditions list-wise? We could try to,
It's like putting both meetings together.
yeah, encapsulate.
see.
Encapsulate.
Madam Chair, if the board was interested in closing the hearing and we wanted to issue a vote, with conditions to be determined at a future meeting as drafted, I'd be happy to put it together.
Okay, all right. I think my important ones are the stabilization bond.
Yep.
And having that clarified.
Yep.
The porta potties or the
got that.
facilities as determined by the building official. The buffer, 15-foot buffer
Yep.
is going to be designated or delineated by a professional.
Got that.
Before any work commences, and that can be inspected by the building official.
Got that.
And
Signage and a lot number.
that's signage,
I got that
trucks
too.
entering. And I would actually prefer to have some communication, like, within a couple days that those signs have been installed. So,
The only other one was introduced by the applicant was portable watering device to be kept on site for dust control.
Yeah.
okay. And then verification of the level of groundwater at the stormwater basin.
And is there a contact number, if I can, to the chair, if, say, calls come in? So that-
Emergency.
Is there somebody, obviously, there's not gonna be
Dispatch.
somebody there all the time.
Yeah.
Is there gonna be a specific time allowed? They could say, well, we ain't gonna be there for 2 days. Or is there gonna be a deal, somebody needs to be there within 30 minutes or an hour? What are we gonna do there?
Property.
Well, they have a contract available.
Yeah, but they're not gonna
so-
have people here all the
What,
time.
what does the contract say? So there's a representative from the company that will, so we need a representative from the company.
We need to know turnaround
Emergency
time on
number.
a call about dust control,
Oh,
is what I'm getting at. Nobody's gonna
I
be
think
there.
the owner's representative would need to be contacted
Right,
for
but
dust control.
if I can through the chair, like at Pine, the people are there all the time. There's nobody here. A guy could say, I'll see you tomorrow because I'm not in the area.
So, if I may-
Are we gonna allow that?
Through the
Or are
chair.
we gonna have to have it where somebody needs to take care of the situation or problem within an hour?
Well, we can just look at what the last permit allowed for dust control. I think it's within 24,
I don't know.
or as humanly
Understand.
possible.
You could just ask them to submit a
If I
dust
may-
control management plan.
Yeah. Yep.
To Mike through the chair, you're speaking about the tenant who's leasing or the owner who owns the property, who
The
is the
tenant take-
landlord?
If it can, the tenant's taking care of the dust control.
Mm-hmm.
The tenant is not gonna be there all the time. They're just gonna have an operator show up when they're loading.
No, the
So if a
responsibility
call
would be
comes
the
in-
owner.
I would think it would be the well, it could also
Yeah.
be two numbers, where there is the property owner would be responsible, because they're around the site.
Or the applicant can designate
Either way.
I'm sure
a
that, yeah,
contact.
Yeah,
they'll
they'll figure it
arrange
out.
it for
Yeah,
the
but
regular
But I just,
payments.
we're
Some-
dealing with
I
a
agree.
property where nobody's gonna be there.
Right.
It's a blank property, nobody's there.
That's why you need the owner to be
So you need to have,
landlord.
you need to have a contact on how this is gonna be handled.
Correct. Right.
Yes,
We agree.
so that's going to be another condition to have the board notified.
Contact protocol.
Her, sorry.
What?
So there's a contact protocol, that's all. Yeah.
Right. Okay, board, any other conditions? Are we prepared to close the public hearing? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
So, second,
Motion made by Mr. Schultzberg, second by Mr. Zwicker. All those in favor?
aye.
I will entertain a motion to grant the earth removal special permit and site plan approval
With conditions?
with conditions as previously mentioned.
And discussed.
In the future will be implemented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Zwicker, seconded by Mr. Schultzberg. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm opposed.
Okay, one opposition, right? Let's do a roll call. Mr. Sokrat?
Aye.
Mr.
Rich Preston, nay.
Roll call, Mike. For the project.
Aye, Mike Crocker.
Yeah, and then
Yay or nay?
No, he said aye. Aye, Mike.
Mike Swicker, aye.
Jacob Schultzberg, aye.
Okay, all right, thank you, motion passes. Thank you very much. So let's work with the applicant on the conditions for
Yeah.
the permit and get those truck signs out and
Okay.
get a number for the lot.
So if I may, just to be clear, on my to-do list is to ask McIntyre to install the signs. I mean, I think that's all we can do. They have a connection to McIntyre, so I assume they have some leverage, but ultimately enforcement lies with the town. But we'll ask McIntyre to install the truck turning sign. Ask the building, that number one. Number two, ask the building department to provide a street address for Lot 1 and Lot 2. And number three, ask the selectmen acting as road commissioners to consent to excavation within 100 feet of Davis Street.
So you're looking
that-
at 85 feet, right?
Okay, 85 feet. Is that a pretty complete?
Yeah, and just verify that there aren't any other adjacent properties within a 100-foot.
If there is, you need a,
And do the selectmen get a copy of the plans as part of this process? So they,
So you're going to be petitioning them just for a discussion? Okay.
Yeah, it would be under discussion.
okay.
yeah.
Okay, thanks, folks.
You're welcome. Thank
good
you.
night.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good seeing you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there something unanticipated here? The Douglas Package Store?
Oh, for the signatures?
You got it all?
No, for
See ya.
this letter that we received today.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Sorry, I'll get into that in just a moment. So, Madam Chair, what I'm, upon discussing and drafting the decision for the 392 Main, Northeast Main, there's so many Main Streets, Northeast Main, was talking, one of the conditions was kind of a general overview for safety and for our safety officer, that being a building commissioner, to take a look at it. Let me just echo that for you guys. Make sure I'm reading that correctly.
Well, the
It was with regards to ADA compliance. So while looking at the property and the project, the building commissioner had some safety suggestions that he wanted to introduce to this board for a possible amendment to our conditions. He also ran these by the applicant, who was agreeable to all of the items on this list. So, one of the items was for us to seek a determination on whether or not this is waivable for section 5.1.7. Determine it is not, a special permit is needed from the planning board for relief from the side lot setback for the parking. That's how it reads in the bylaw. So the applicant has already filled out an application. They're hoping to appear at a future meeting for that. So that's one thing.
Is there any, so the existing parking area is as close as what they're proposing?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
So the existing, as it exists today, the parking area is within the side lot setbacks for parking?
I actually forget. I'm not totally sure. I can't
Okay,
remember
so-
if it's more or less. But it's for us determined by a special permit, according to.
If I'm not mistaken, I thought the parking was right to the fence in that lot, isn't it?
Proposed.
No, I'm
It
just
is
saying
now.
if the existing disturbed.
We don't know.
At 100% they need the special permit from the planning board, is what I'm,
That's what.
Where
that's
I'm
what Ken-
going.
That's what Ken says, yes. So they've already completed an application and intend on applying soon.
okay.
As for
If I-
safety, with
if I
the
may-
sidewalk being across the street, Mr. Frazier wanted to promote a crosswalk to the business. So if folks were to walk to it, they're not jaywalking. But in order to put a sidewalk across the street, there has to be a sidewalk on the other end. So one of the things that we reviewed was there was a sidewalk at first, right? We asked them, they were talking about doing deliveries out front. It ended up becoming removed from the plan when and then they switched their deliveries to inside the driveway. We didn't revisit the sidewalk discussion. Mr. Frazier was wondering if the board would consider adding that sidewalk, not to the entire front length of the parcel as this reads, but just in front of the building itself, so you can connect the sidewalk to it. That's one suggestion. One of the items we removed was there was a light with the headlight pollution spilling over onto a residential property next door, based on the photometric plan that we saw. If they were to put a shielded light on it, Mr. Frazier would like that for security for all sides of the building, and also adding lights on, there's a wall on one of the sides. He wasn't sure who owned that wall. Turns out that the fact store owners do. So he wanted to add some lighting, and there is a 3-foot expansion of this handicap space for van accessible. It does not impact the other parking. We still have the same amount of parking spaces. It's that for ADA compliance. So what Mr. Frazier is asking for is for the board to consider these conditions to be implemented into the decision by way of a modified motion.
I can make it, through the chair, if I can ask a question. That
Sure.
currently, and it came up, where is this parking? Is it over people's properties? Is it up to a fence? Currently, I mean, and we approved that plan. I mean, obviously, they're going to survey it, have marks down there, and not, impeach on someone else's property for parking. I mean, they just want this to be bulletproof. I mean, it seems only natural, but needs to be surveyed. It needs to have property markers in. I mean, just because you don't want cars being, them striping 2 feet into someone's property adjacent, that's all, because it's tight. That's all. That's all my question is. So,
There isn't a sidewalk on the other side at all.
It runs the entire length of the street.
The other side?
Yes.
The package store side?
No, the opposite.
Right.
Yeah.
There is zero sidewalk.
Agreed.
So so Ken was envisioning a very small portion of sidewalk
Standing on both sides.
going just to this liquor store.
Right.
it should be bigger.
No, I don't.
Was he speaking of gathering
I
along the
don't know how
sidewalk?
many people are walking up the street and crossing the street here to get to the liquor store, because I don't see the purpose of the sidewalk. Is it required? A sidewalk required if you have can't you do paint? Is a sidewalk required if you have a crosswalk?
For ADA, yes. Go ahead, Mr. Frazier. I'd be happy to call him or ask him to.
How urgent is this, considering this came in today?
These are his recommendations, those are safety compliance. He's considered these to be safety as number one priority in his office. That's why he went and made these recommendations.
Right, but he's been following this project for 4 months. I don't see, I think we need to work around with a small portion of a sidewalk. I don't know what other consequences there would be to having a sidewalk installed on that side of the street. And it's a domino effect. We've already designed the whole entire project and they've redesigned it. And then the special permit from the planning board relief, I think, can we just consider that a minor modification? And it was already effectively granted by those spaces that were shown on the plan for parking.
If I can through the chair, I mean, the eliminate some of the soft right off the top, 4, 5, and 6 is no problem, correct?
4, 5, 6, 7,
No problem.
no problem.
So we
And
don't have
2,
to
no
worry about
problem.
1, 2, 3.
2, no problem.
The way Ken explained it to me was you can't put a crosswalk in unless you have, the crosswalk goes to a sidewalk.
Right. So 2 and 3 are tied together.
I know, I was just,
But if I may,
Yes,
through the chair,
yes.
what is the downside of having them install even a small sidewalk for, with a handicap cut down metal plate with a crosswalk for gathering?
Because
What does
that's
it
the only-
do?
That's, on that side of the street, that's the only sidewalk there is in front of his
This
store.
is a sidewalk just for the store.
It's only for the store.
Yeah, but
There is
it's
no
only
other
like
sidewalk.
20
people-
feet.
So why?
People cross all the time. I see them going over there. They cross the street, no painted
But
lines, no,
a handicapped person can't cross safely. They'd have to go, but then it's like, that's kind of a bigger problem because, in town.
Yep.
Because the last crosswalk is down below and doesn't cross to that side. I just don't know if this project should kick off the sidewalk project on the other side of the street.
let's just start somewhere, maybe. I don't know, whatever. I'm in favor of sidewalks in downtowns, but whatever.
I mean, we've already got the loading and unloading off the street.
Correct.
I think that we need more information. If that's, 2 weeks, if they can wait that long.
I probably want to see the plan with a sidewalk.
Yeah.
There too, just good to visualize what it would kind of look like now.
And it wasn't there before, so
That-
you do have some leniency on, I know it's a new project, but it's an old lot. It's not like a brand-new lot.
If I saw the layout, the only option I could think of, and I'm just throwing it out there, if I remember correctly, the entrance is on the side of the building, and he has a walkway there for people to park, get out, and walk into the entrance.
Along the side of the building, all the
So,
yeah.
right, and where the door is.
Yeah, yeah.
So you have that sidewalk for the entrance, come to the street.
And that's it.
And you have it as the handicap
Just do a
accessible.
straight shoot.
So it's right across the street, right under his sidewalk that's already in front of his building.
And then the crosswalk.
It might,
Yeah.
I don't have the print in front of me. It might be a simple, inexpensive way out. I
6
don't
by
know
6,
without
8
seeing
by
a print.
6.
But then you've got to have each side, so it's kind of just like a,
That's all
come
right.
across the street, and then there's a left and a right to the tar, pretty much, to no sidewalk.
Well, like I said, I don't have a plan in front
But
of me.
so be it, let them come up with it. I mean, they're developing, I don't care that the lot was established in 1700. It's a new building, it's a new development, it's a new
Yeah, but
The
this is
investment.
being added
streets and the
on.
layout, and we've been the town.
Of course,
has
yeah,
been.
we all agree, but.
We have no plan, this is like a
I know, we should see something
random
like,
Yeah.
plan.
just straight
Like I
on,
said-
coming out of that, yeah.
I mean, through the 4, 5, 6, 7, run with it. The other stuff, I think we need a little bit more detail on.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is have a vote by the board that the proposed changes for safety
reflected.
would be considered minor modification to our previous approval. So that's going to be 4, 5, 6, 7.
I'll make that motion.
Motion
I'll
made by
second that
Mr.
motion.
Zwicker, seconded by Mr. Sokrat. All those in favor?
I
Aye.
Okay.
Let's see.
And then 1, 2, and 3, we need more on before we worry about 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. And then, are you gonna recuse yourself? Okay.
Something about Meg.
We have a letter from Joseph and Meg Schlesman with the commencement of the required and approved work on the private road at Hawk Hill Farms. They're requesting that the board consider allowing the site work on lot number 9 to be performed concurrently with the road work. So, we have a no-build covenant tied to this. We don't have any bond, correct? So, if this lot, if the site work gets completed and then abandoned, we have no remedy. The town would inherit a half-developed lot. I think is that summing it up, Mr. Benoit?
Yeah, Madam Chair, there are 3 new building lots as part of this. One of them one's at the lower part of the roadway, actually has frontage on the road. And then there's 2 large lots in the back, and the one that they're asking for a release from is Lot 5 off the back. Looking for a release of, respectfully, I think this request is a little early in the process. I understand the reason for the request, but we are talking about normally the road would be brought to a certain standard, we'd be bonding it, then releasing the lots, and then construction equipment would be coming in, and the developer would be repairing the roadway as they go. Assuming that if they created any issues or something, but this is not a full-fledged public way, right? And we're not bringing in subgrade material like in the extent like we would for a public way. So this is a lesser of a standard. I'm kind of torn on this. I want to know what the board thinks.
Okay. And Ms. Schlesman, when you say site work, what's their scope of work?
So what we would be hoping to be able to start would be the excavation for the septic and the foundation.
You'll need permits for both of those. So this board, before a permit is issued, you would need your release from the no-build covenant. So you can't get any permits at this time. So your request would need to be to release lot number 9.
Yes.
That's not what you asked for, though.
Well, we're hoping to just start the conversation with the
Okay.
board, so
'Cause
that
I
we
think-
could begin to understand what's required of us. And-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that clearing trees, moving material around, it's your property, you can do that. Anything that has a permit, you're not gonna be able to get your permit granted. So you would need to post a bond to trade the no-build covenant. And do we have a number for that bond? Okay. So we'd have to establish a bond amount, and then that would have to be posted in order for us to vote to release lot number 9 from the no-build covenant. And I think that's your easiest way. If you have the machinery and everything out there, I think that you just do it that way. Probably save you and get a bonding company and.
Through the chair, haven't we done it before where we've allowed the septic and foundation to be done, but no building can go up?
No, she's
Over
talking
on-
about a permittable activity.
Over on Whiting's Road? We let them put in some stuff. But we
road
would've let
was
them,
done.
let them put a piece of wood on it, because they were doing it all at the same time.
That was 2 adjacent foundations,
Right, but
but the infrastructure was already in, and I believe we had a bond.
true,
It wasn't on the no-build covenant.
true, okay,
It was bonded.
yeah.
So I think, would you like to request to have the bond established? The bond amount?
I anticipate we're going to need to do that anyway at some point.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I may, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It's all about the board's kind of collateral in a case like this. All we have are lots, right? We lose a lot this early in the process without the road having been established. A good trade is a bond. I agree with that. I just think as long as the board's comfortable with the level of collateral in exchange, then I would support that.
Okay. What? Anybody else?
Do the other lots have no build? Are they tied in as well?
Yeah. Yeah, they're all under covenant right now.
Okay.
Except for the roadway. Except for the ones with houses on them already.
So I think for next meeting, we establish the bond amount. You can work with Matt on that, right?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Even at that time,
You can-
possibly draft the lot release in advance.
Okay. So, yeah, I would want to establish, so I think the applicant would submit to you their bond, right? Their bond amount, and then you would verify it however you want to, either
Typically
through
review it through third party.
peer review. And then, next meeting, we could have the bond posted and
Release the lot.
have a motion for lot release for number 9. You got you rolling.
Lot 5.
9.
I said 9, it's lot 5. It's
Oh.
it's number 9 now that they've numbered them.
Yeah, that's what-
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nope, that's okay. Whatever it is in our permit,
Yeah.
that's what we'll call
The
it.
appropriate number.
Yes, the appropriate number. Okay? That's good? All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, come back. MS4 update, anything?
Nick Christophery, our MS4 consultant, I had a last minute schedule change, unable to attend this evening.
Okay,
We're looking at possibly the final meeting in October or the one meeting in November.
all right, good. Maybe the one meeting in November. Master planning?
Yes, so at the request of our associate member, Mr. Preston, I'd like to add this to the agenda to kick off, I guess, the discussion of master planning or updating our master plan. And now, for those who don't know, when you open our master plan and you turn to the very first page, it lists Douglas Planning Board member, communications coordinator, Mr. Preston himself.
Yes.
What year was
As
it?
part of this. Oh,
98.
I'm not going to read that out loud. So, very familiar with
He
the
looks the
process, it
same, don't worry.
seems. So, I think one of the first steps in the matter, but Mr. Preston, you want to go ahead and jump in? And one of the first steps in the matter is trying to get volunteers for subcommittee.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, so,
Like
I've
our
already
sign-
been, I've already
a
been on
sign
the sign
subcommittee.
committee, so I'm out.
yeah, so not just from this board, but this board would probably best fit to a motion to have me reach out to the other town departments, that's up to their, not town departments, excuse me, regulatory boards or even committees for membership.
If I could just ask, we have to have this plan, correct? How often does it have to get renewed every so often?
We're out of the ring.
We're
Yeah.
long past.
Yeah.
What is it?
So I think,
Years? What is it?
Depends on the community, but, and the size of the.
By statute.
It says 20 years.
Actually,
So you're supposed to look
2008.
out 20 years from the date of your master
We
plan.
can leave it to our children.
So the way this reads, it envisions Douglas in 2020. So,
okay, not bad. All right, so I will entertain a motion for Mr. Benoit to reach out to other regulatory boards and commissions to join the master plan subcommittee.
Yeah, sounds
Master
good.
Plan Study Committee?
yeah, we're not in implementation yet, so, oh God, it's been a
Where
while.
does one get that book? Do you have
Actually,
copies in your
that-
office?
Oh, I don't.
Good.
This was
Yeah.
just handed
Through
to
the chair.
Yes?
Yeah. Well,
I think people should be recognized by you. This through the chair thing, I don't know. That's another story, but anyway. That's not the master plan. That's
just the
That's
draft.
an abbreviated, abridged version. The real master
Right.
plan's about
It's like 230 pages, yeah.
So what I was offering to do, I have one or two somewhere buried deep in the piles, as we all do. I could see if I could digitize it and get you a PDF file. So at least as a start, you can see what the original master plan said and did. I don't know if there are any originals left.
They have a nice scanner.
All I have is
Yeah.
this one.
They have a
It's a
nice
lot of,
scanner.
it would be- it
Yeah.
would be a project, but I think it would be a good idea to have that, make a PDF file or something,
Yeah,
have that
if-
record.
yeah, maybe you think there is one?
This is, late 90s.
Library? Library.
Oh, the library should have one. They
Yeah.
did have one.
Yeah,
Think of that.
they have a lot of stuff,
I should be able to dig up. a
historical
copy.
stuff at the library. Okay,
If I
Did I-
can to the chair on that,
Yes.
like, when we did the sign subcommittee, I think it worked out real good. I mean, we had a lot of cool meetings, we had a lot of good input, and I think what we got out of it works. I don't know. This year I'd be interested in.
I would too.
I'd like to be, possibly be part of it. I think it's doing it, if you don't, I mean, that means the future of the town, really, kind of a general little bit, not all of it, but.
If I could, I thought this would
Thank
be
you.
helpful. This is from the state, and even though it's from the state, it's a nice synopsis. And it's a nice big font so I can read it.
Jeez, I just took my glasses off.
thank you very much.
No, awesome.
So if I could, what happened last time is we put together a master plan study committee, and that's exactly what they did. They gathered, there were some members of the planning board, there were members from other boards, committees, and commissions, and members from the community. It was a pretty big group. And they met collectively together to sort of brainstorm and go through all the different categories. Familiar with some of them?
Some CMRPC.
Yeah, housing, open space, public facilities, land use, recreation, economic development, traffic circulation. So there's a
Sidewalks, new sidewalks.
There was a sidewalk plan. I don't know if they were followed
They threw
through.
that part out.
Because nothing's
They lit it on
changed.
fire, yeah.
So you had the master plan study committee. I don't know if you want to do this again. And then once you do the study and you put a package together, then it has to be approved at town meeting. And then you have a master plan implementation committee, and they spent about 3 years. They did a wonderful job implementing it, and that doesn't happen often in most communities. A lot of times it goes on a shelf and it collects stuff. So we don't have to create a brand-new master plan. What we can do is review the existing one and simply update it where appropriate.
Yeah, I think
With
that's
modern
great.
times, modern
Yeah.
technology.
Could
modern
scan it in and, you
Solar
know,
farm.
if it's not typed, you can just convert it.
Yep.
From the PDF, you can convert.
We do have software for that now.
Yeah, that's great.
This is good.
Okay, so you would call this subcommittee, Master Plan Study Committee?
That's what it was called.
Okay.
I don't know if it has to be called that. but-
Because we're not doing the master plan, we're just doing a study on the master plan at the
Well, we're doing
moment.
an update. You're doing an update to it.
When we're studying the existing master
Studying
plan.
or revising?
I don't care. We need a motion for that, to allow Mr. Benoit for the outreach.
I'll second that motion.
I'll make it.
Who first it? Mr. Schoenberg made the motion, Mr. Zwicker made the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Does CPR,
CMRPC,
yeah, does that have any technical
we want them to
help?
do the map.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna engage with them to do the mapping portion.
And if I can, when we did the sign, there was, wasn't CMRPC with us? Somebody was with us.
Rich Bowen, attorney Rich Bowen was,
Yeah, the whole, at all the meetings.
yeah, remember his garage signs and
That's
the
right, yeah,
lights, the neons?
yeah.
Yeah,
But that helped out a lot because
he'd be
it
like,
cut down on the excessive time that would take to go through it. Because he could answer it right there, yes, no. He knew the law.
As far as legal.
By state law.
Oh, yeah.
So when we went through the signs, by law, no, you can't do that, but yes, you can do this. No, you can't prevent this, but yes, you can stop that. And it made it phenomenal, and that would be somebody that would be great if this goes forward, which I think it will, that's there at every meeting to eliminate that delay of you talk about it, someone reviews it, you go back, you go over it again. You're taking care of it at each meeting. I mean, you're asking for people to volunteer to do this. I think it makes a big difference if you have people there to help the people that are volunteering do it.
yeah, I agree with that.
Actually, the last go-around, they hired a planning entity, planning
Wait a minute.
service. I remember it was the cost of $10,000. That was big money then.
Oh, yeah, that was budget busting.
Yeah. So I don't know if that would be needed or recommended this time.
I will say, as your new CMRPC delegate, I attended my first meeting this evening.
Yay.
Oh, cool.
Yay, Meg.
It seems like there is a lot of financial help for towns looking to do this, and that I think there is some, if I'm understanding correctly, an additional amount of hours for review of plans that they are offering.
Free hours?
Yes.
Free hours?
Wow.
Oh, wow.
May just be one.
1 hour?
But we'll take it.
Yeah, okay, very good.
Maybe the LPA or DLTA, yeah, there's opportunities for that. Yeah, so with a lot of your chapters, and we'll go through this probably with the committee, but each chapter is kind of a specialist thing, whether it's economic development, circulation. The open space plan chapter is going to be done soon, so
Oh, yeah.
we'll just slide that right in there.
Mr. Manerick.
Yeah.
We need him.
Yes, so
He could probably
a lot of
write it
these
tonight.
services might involve
He's working
consulting
on it
service,
already.
whether it's planning or not, or we're doing it specialized per, it doesn't matter. But to Mr. Zwicker's point, last time you guys did this, you were fortunate enough to work with Mr. Bobrowski, which was,
He literally wrote the book on
Yeah.
local zoning.
Yeah.
Mark Bobrowski.
Yeah.
Is he still around?
he is?
Yes,
The book is about this thick.
I have it in the office.
I have 2.
I just lucky I didn't.
Do you read it?
I have
I
the
didn't get
new,
it
yep,
autographed.
all the time. I have the
I
updated version.
pretend to read it. I have it on my shelf.
So yeah, we'll have to, there will be specialists that need to be brought on also, so.
Okay, great. Awesome.
Madam Chair, before we get to the last item on our agenda, Mr. Wojcik asked me to make sure we make a statement, it's just that Mr. Marks has an excused absence this evening.
Okay,
All right. and,
yes, noted.
And was also wanted to ask, obviously, folks understand that he's not, he was ill recently, and if the board would be interested in sending him some sort of care package.
Oh, yeah.
So, this idea was introduced by Mr. Leishman, actually.
I could put some stuff together.
One of the things that I guess him and his wife really like are those edible arrangements. like
We can
flowers and
put
fruits
something
and stuff.
together.
So
We have a resource.
you're looking for either donations or the board to authorize an expense out of one of our accounts. So, totally up to you.
Authorize an expense.
Yeah,
It's fine. No
the
problem.
amount,
I don't know how much, we'll pick one, but
Okay.
As Jen sees fit.
not to exceed.
not to exceed $100.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr.
Second.
Zwicker, second by Mr. Preston. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. I hope he recovers. Okay, minutes.
Madam Chair, last meeting, you guys asked me to go over the May meeting minutes. Unfortunately, I have been unable to do that. Jen did make some of the changes based on the red ink I put on my last copy, but there was far more that needed to be done, and I did not get to that.
Okay, shall we hold?
On that one, yes, please.
Okay.
Last meeting, I had asked if the board had any questions, comments related to the July meeting in which we lost the recording, or that it wasn't recorded. I asked if the folks could review the minutes and make sure, or verify who made motions and who seconded based on your memory alone, and if you have feedback, I'd appreciate it, but otherwise,
Okay.
that's as best as that sets the minutes is going to get.
Okay, June 22nd, 2023.
Are we going one by one, or are you gonna?
Yep, we're gonna hold on May 25th.
Right. We have July 20. Want that one?
Sure.
Are we gonna hold off on all of them? That's what I'm asking, I guess.
No? You want to do July?
Or you want to do June? Which you want to do
June
first?
22nd, please.
She wants June 22nd.
Okay. I've reviewed that, and it has a number of typos that maybe we should point out and have addressed. Page 3,
No, Jacob.
item 7.
See that?
1, 2, 3, about 4 or 5 lines down, and in the middle of the page, there's the word rum, R-U-M, as in Captain Morgan.
Have the room.
I assume they meant room, not rum.
Right, good catch.
And if you go down to, oh my God, the next to the last line, where it says they are not using the front part of the lot.
Where is this?
Got that? And front of the LAW,
What number is this, Mike?
number 7. But it's like, you know, almost down to the end of number 7. Sentence begins the road and there's a drain there. Excuse me, it's the line before that. They are not using the front part.
Of the
You
lawn,
all see that?
the lawn,
The law, yeah,
Oh,
it's
the
probably
lot?
means,
In the front part.
oh, meant law.
in the front
Twice,
part
it's in
of the
there
lawn.
twice.
Yeah, it's there twice,
Part of the lot
which I was going to overlook, but then
of the lot.
LAW, I mean, obviously it should be lawn, LAWN, in that sentence. So, we got that?
Okay, so you're striking the second front part of the law. And it's just gonna read, not using the front part of the lot, and it is 3 or 4 feet lower than the road and there's a drain there, right? That's what
Yeah,
the
it
sentence
be
should
lawn,
read,
LAWN, not law.
front part of the lawn.
Well, does the law make any sense in that sentence?
No,
No, so I think, it looked like if it were lawn, it might make some sense. And it is 3 or 4 feet lower than some. The road, and there's a drain there. So if we could change law to lawn, LAWN, and ROM to room, ROOM.
I have a couple, too.
You got a couple too?
Yeah.
And I got another.
Bring them up, I guess.
All right, on that same one, page 4, look at line C. There's a time subdivision regulations, Mr. Tonight. Mr. Tonight. Whoever Mr. Tonight is.
Never got that one yet.
And if we could, we'll go down on line A. I think it's the cube, not cubes. It's one building, and that same cubes is 1, 2, 3 lines up from the bottom. It says the cubes, so they can get an idea. It's pine in the cube, not cubes.
It says cubes on going
It's cube. I think it's a building they call the cube.
Gilboa.
Gilboa.
The cube, is it cubes at Gilboa or cube?
Plural.
Cubes.
It is plural?
Yeah.
It's a single building,
I know. That's true. But it's
Right?
broken into cubes.
no?
There will be.
may or may not be broken into cubes.
But yeah, Mr. Tonight, I don't think works.
No, I don't like it either.
Mr. Chicken. That sounds
I did see in
a ton of things.
like the first page that the 110 timestamp motion to appoint.
Jacob.
Yep, Jacob. Page 2 in number 5. 1, 2. The end of the 4th line down. Mr. Benoit stated the comments that had come up. I think it's supposed to be were weather if. And so
That's the wrong word.
it's supposed to be were, and then weather, not natural weather, and if.
The water was a question. Building.
I don't see that one.
Section 8. joined instead of join the meeting. They have solar rep, Lawrence Cook joined the meeting via Zoom.
Is that enough revisions for June 22nd?
There's a bunch here, but whatever.
Good enough?
Most of it's fine.
Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second.
With
As amended with revisions and any other additional grammatical revisions found.
Yes.
Motion made by Mr. Schultzberg,
Second.
second by Mr. Greco. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Right, and July 20th?
Pardon?
July 20th, 2023?
Yeah. I didn't see anything wrong, so.
Wow, amazing. Anyone else,
Yeah,
board?
amazing. If, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written for July 20.
Motion made by Mr. Greco,
Second.
second by Mr. Preston. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Benoit, anything else?
I just wanted to state that, no, I will not be doing minutes moving forward, as well as that one just went, because I did the July 20th ones.
Oh,
Oh, pretty good.
That's a one-off thing.
Any word
Anything
on
else?
Sutton
okay.
Douglas project?
Nothing else, but I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr.
Second
Schultzberg,
that,
second by
please.
Mr. Sokrat. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.